This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to the program. Joining me now, John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to get the week off to a good start with you, my friend. Nice to see you.
Good to be with you. Good to start the week.
All right. And it's good to see me too, right? And it's a good week, right?
Everything's good.
All good.
Everything's good. Except maybe our discussion, but it's good so far. Good so far.
Let's begin with the state has a $1.6 billion budget surplus. We learned early last week, we knew that it was on track for something pretty close to that number. So you're governor for a day, John Brummett. What do you do with $1.6 billion in budget surplus?
Now, Roby, I'm going to take a chance and correct you. I think it's 1.16, isn't it? Rather than 1.6. That's only a difference of $500,000. I could be wrong. It's a lot of money. It's more money than government needs to make in a year. Government's not in the business of making money. There are three ways to go on this. There's the conservative view, which is, well, we're taking in more than we need. Let's cut these income taxes some more. Then there's the liberal view. We're not budgeting aggressively enough. We're being too timid. And we need to spend this money along as we go for the real human needs in this still relatively poor state. And then there's the centrist view. And as you know, that's where I'm headed in my dotage toward centrism, which is a lot of this is fortified or underwritten by leftover or residual special aid from the virus. The economy restarted with kind of a vengeance. There was some exuberance in that. And let's save most of this and see if about a possible recession, or see if this thing levels out, and not be hasty. I go with number three. I build a few pickleball courts and save the rest. Basically, I'm kidding about the pickleball courts. But really, I think I wouldn't cut taxes, and I wouldn't think that we need to spend it all on capital projects, and put it aside in rainy day fund, governor's emergency fund. Maybe if there's an urgent capital project that's been deferred too long, do that. But hang on to it until we have a little more experience. This is we're still in a volatile state, driven by special circumstance from the pandemic. I'd let it settle out. I'm a fiscal conservative, you see.
All right. You are correct. I stand corrected. It is a $1.16 billion.
Well, I hated to call you down, but I thought we need to get that right to start.
Duly noted, and you are good for doing that. I was out of town on vacation last week, will be my defense. So
really? I didn't even know you were gone. I didn't miss you a bit. I'm so sorry.
So exactly. Yeah. All right. So that's what you would do if you were governor and sitting on a $1.16 billion budget surplus. What do you think the governor and the legislature will do with this $1.16 billion budget surplus?
I would not be surprised if they didn't do a lot of what I've said, which is let's not spend it very much. Let's wait and see. But let's take this income tax rate down another portion of a penny, a few decimal points. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, because that's the overwhelming conservative Republican attitude. And so far, here's what happens when we've reduced our taxes. We haven't had great wailing about suffering, and it turns out that what we lose in income tax revenue tends to get made up by sales tax revenue, which means folks are taking their income tax cut and buying stuff with it. And it all sort of, if you do it incrementally and responsibly, and if it works that way, if there's not a recession and people aren't spending less, then you can do it. So far, you can do it, knock wood. So, that's a popular thing to do. And I expect that will be what we will do. It's hard for these conservative Republicans to tell folks, we've got $1.1 billion more than we need, but we can't give you any of it back. I think giving it back is a near political imperative in the current Arkansas conservative Republican climate.
Well, perhaps sometime in the next few days, you could talk to your friend Bubba over in East Arkansas and see what he thinks. He would be a man of the people that might share an honest opinion on it.
Well, he's got a lot of common sense too. So we'll see. I wonder that's a good idea. I'll check with him, see what he says.
All right. Over in the Delta, we had some movement this week too in the Marvell-Elaine School District. The state Board of Education votes to take over that school district. They did want to initially put that with a charter school, but the LEARNS Act litigation has everything in limbo on that front. Do you still see this as an inevitable? The Marvell-Elaine School District will be under charter control once the LEARNS Act works through this process, that we either expect the Supreme Court to rule against the lower court judge, or August 1st gets here and it goes into effect. What's your prediction on how this plays out?
It's hardly a prediction. It's almost a certainty. Even if it really doesn't matter how the Supreme Court rules, it'll probably take them, unless they do something urgent, it'll take them some time. Even with the emergency clause invalid, LEARNS becomes effective August 1, and that's coming up just before you know it, matter of a few weeks. So when school starts, the state can take charge for now to prepare that school district for opening. It can, as of August 1, under the legitimate non-emergency clause related enforcement of the law, it can rehire the charter management firm. We're right back where we started. Any idea of this litigation that some other solution would be found in Elaine Marvell District, which I thought was the original idea, now seems highly unlikely. LEARNS was always inevitable. This was an argument. This was an argument about when is it inevitable. The other factor is the people who want to circulate the petitions to refer it to the ballot will have more time. I'm dubious about whether they can get it there. Wish they could. Dubious about whether the people of Arkansas will vote against their governor and undo it. I think it's all it's all gonna sort of settle out in the end to what we always expected, and this litigation, which enthralled me and others for a while, will come to nothing. That's just unless they just got tons of signatures and petitions out there, and they get it referred to the people in November 2024. That's the only remaining issue to me. The Supreme Court's going to rule, I think, by 4 votes at least, to overturn Judge Wright. Even if they don't, August 1, it's effective. So, and by the way, we had a rush of commentary. I avoided it generally. I'm proud to say that Governor Sanders and Attorney General Griffin were going to flout this ruling and violate the law and proceed full speed ahead by saying we're going to continue to implement. There's no injunction against implementing. It turns out, as I speculated, implementation means to get ready for the effectiveness of this law, which by all logic they need to be doing. They're not flouting the law because they had their state education board admit that they can't use the charter school management firm in Marvell-Elaine under the ruling. They agreed to the substance of the ruling, or they acceded to it, didn't agree to it, and they need to proceed with planning and for implementation, because that looks inevitable. August 1, or if not before. So that was a lot of this turns out to be, sadly, about less than meets the eye, it seems to me.
All right, let's turn our attention to higher education. There seems to be some cracks developing between the UA System Board of Trustees and President Donald Bobbitt. Do you want to summarize for people what you kind of see happening there? And I'll let you go with a prediction of what might be the next shoe to drop in this.
Well, the board, summarize what's going on. Bob has been there a long time. College presidents, system presidents don't stay in office forever. He's had 2 high-profile matters arise in recent months. One, the man he supported for chancellor of the flagship campus at Fayetteville, with the backing of some Walton family people, was rejected by the Board of Trustees in favor of an interim chancellor who was very popular with the students and was popular with faculty and students, and the on-campus choice. He was President Brummett was rebuffed by the board, and then there was this matter of his 2-year courtship of this scheme by which we'd created a middleman, nonprofit middleman to buy the University of Phoenix and step into the vanguard of online education. A dubious proposal, I believe it's fair to say, that the board rejected. So when you've been there a long time and you've lost the two big things, the big high profile things in a row, and your contract is expiring at the end of the year, we've had this discussion about whether to renew that contract. Board member Sheffield Nelson has been highly outspoken about how he thinks he was misled during all the Phoenix stuff, and that he thought Bobbitt was scheming to run this new middleman entity. Some of the other board members recoiled against that, thought Nelson went too far in his criticisms, overstating the transgression. Point is, they met 2.5 hours, and who knows what happened in 2.5 hours. But the public resolution of that was a vague, unanimous voice vote. But I mean, vaguely unanimous. It's not sure. Some of them actually voted, but there were no no's. And there were to give him 2 years. 1 wasn't enough. That seemed 3, which I think would have been more formal if they weren't ready to do that. To give him 2 more years. So again, a lot of this is lately. A lot of what we're having consternation about doesn't amount to anything. In the end, we're not going to have the University of Phoenix. In the end, Fayetteville got the chancellor it wanted. In the end, President Bobbitt gets to stay another couple more years, and it's status quo. That's what it came down to. I don't know what the next shoe to drop is, but maybe in this discussion, this is just rank speculation. The idea was 2 more years, but we're going to, maybe after that, it's time for a change. Maybe, or maybe it has 2 great years. Who knows? And the point is, it didn't come to anything. It's we're where we always were. Happens a lot.
Always something for a newspaper columnist to write about, though. That's the good news in all of this.
Well, or for a leading multimedia platform to report on as well. Let's not just put it on the newspaper columnist. But yeah, sometimes things percolate, they boil, and then they're gone. That's the cycle sometimes. All right.
All right. He's John Brummett, columnist with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Thanks for being with us.
It's always a pleasure, Roby. See you next time.